And so when the guy next to me was going, he kicked me in the side of the head.
With his foot?
With his foot, yeah.
Right.
You know, like got a concussion at Reve, you know, like got kicked in the
I
head.
remember that. Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot that until you said. What happened in that one again?
So there's
It was going to be amazing.
It was going to be amazing. Hey, you know, I don't know how my body does it, but sometimes it just keeps going. Like, it's amazing how autopilot your body can just keep going. Yeah. There was a part where we're on harness, and we kind of like spin around, and the guy next to me he's very like tall and long, and my partner, I got pulled off of my center a little bit, and so when the guy next to me was going, he kicked me in the side of the head.
With his foot?
With his foot, yeah.
And
you're trying to get like momentum, because the next thing is we go up in the air.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember what this is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got kicked in the head, and somehow I kept spinning, like without like throwing up or anything. But yeah, I was out of shows, I think, for 2 or 3 weeks because I had such a bad concussion. My favorite thing was I was like, I'm fine. Like, you know, like I don't have a concussion. And they're like, okay, go ahead and stand right here. And one of the tests is to close your eyes and march in place. So I'm like, okay. So I close my eyes, I'm marching in place, and I'm like, I got this. And I had traveled like a few feet and turned directions. So, meaning obviously I had a concussion. My head was like all over the place because I
didn't know this happens.
Yeah. I thought I was staying in the same place, and I thought I was like, I'm killing this. I'm doing so good. And then I was like, way off. They're like, nope, you're out of shows. Okay.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I've never had a concussion, so I don't really know. But I mean, there's a lot of dangers that goes on with cirque performers, man. You know, I was thinking about, though, when you were talking about Ringling and all the firsts that went on in that show. I can remember when, you know, I was there. I had been with Disney, so I was on a touring production show for a few years. So I had that experience. But Ringling was like a different beast. And Kenneth said to me, and at the time, I didn't really understand what he meant. Now I do clearly. But at the time, what he said to me was, you know, after you do Ringling, you'll be able to do anything. And I thought like, oh, wow, I'll be able to, you know, I'm going to be famous. And that's not what he meant. What he meant was you will never be intimidated by any other show, because guess what? There really isn't a bigger show. And, you know, and it's true. It's like, you know, I'm on a float and there's thousands of people and there's pyro going off and there's horses and then the elephants are there and then there's people on bungees and there's confetti launching and I mean, there's just like so much going on. And he goes, and you have to stand there and you still have to have people want to watch you. And he goes, you know, because that was my role. And it was just a really interesting, and I loved that experience on that end of it. But I remember in rehearsal, so we were in Tampa, you know, I was the ringmaster. I was that guy. And it's so weird to think about now, but like I was 23, so I was a kid, and I'm on this float and the spotlights are on me. And you, I can still remember you're at end track on, you know, front track, but end track. And you're in that bungee and you're going and you're bouncing. Or no, that wasn't, I'm sorry. You were just the harness in the thing, because the bungee was at the end. The bungee was the end, but you were on the harness and those like in the wings and the thing.
Yeah.
And I remember being on the float and I'm like waving and like performing. And because I didn't know where you were, because I didn't know where they placed you, right? And then in one rehearsal, and I look up and I see you there, and I just stopped performing. And I remember looking at you going, Leah, what are you doing up there? Look at you. Like all of a sudden I just became the brother, right? And I'm like, that's my sister. What are you doing? And like, I'm just like, oh, my line. And like, but I was just so excited to see you up there. And I just remember thinking, you're riding an elephant, or you're, you know, on this harness going around. And I just was like, and it was funny to me because I remember you laughing, thinking, well, I'm thinking the same thing. So you're like, well, the little brother's up on this float and he's like doing all these things. And so that was a really fun experience. I remember that. And I loved that. I mean, I think about that too when we did the animal walk in New York City. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, in Asia, and I'm waving, there's thousands of people lining the streets. And like, I'm looking at you going, Leah, can you believe what's going on? This is crazy. And I was just, you know, and that was a fun experience.
I think that that's kind of like the beauty of us both like being performers is because we've gotten to do things together, but then we also get to like support each other, encourage each other, and be proud of each other doing our individual things. And, you know, I don't think not everybody gets to do that. You know, not everybody has that support from their family or can relate to their brother and sister in the same field.
Right.
You know, and I think that's kind of something that's really awesome and really special.
I think it's unique and special. And I agree 100% because, you know, to be able to relate. So when I say, oh, I had this show, whatever, you said, oh, I had this show here, you kind of go, oh, I get what you mean. Because entertainment and show business for, you know, regular people, you know, it's different. And some people don't understand it, just the lifestyle. And so it's always nice to be able to have that understanding. And something that before we go, because I know you have to get back to the baby, I can also remember when people talk to you and me specifically and how just our personalities, the character that we have as far as like, oh, I can do anything is something that's common between the two of us. I just always found that really fascinating because when people would talk to me or talk to you, they always left with the same idea in their mind, which is, oh, these two, like there is no limit. And I think that's really amazing because I remember when I was on tour with Ringling, and I think it was after you left, it was year 2. So you were in Vegas with Reve, and I did this promotion, this PR, and I'm in the car and the promoter's driving me. And then the assistant production manager, John Merrill was, he had just joined the tour, maybe a month. He was pretty new. And he was with me and we're talking and the promoter was talking to me and just, this was after the event. And John said to me, he says, hey, Alex, can I ask you a personal question? And I was like, yeah, okay. And the promoter, I can remember because the promoter driving was like, what is this about? And he said, is there anything you think you can't do? And I go, no. And he goes, I didn't think so. And that was it. And I go, okay, wait. And I kind of laughed. I go, what was that about? He goes, no, I just, after meeting you and just seeing your character and your personality and working and interacting with people and, you know, whatever, I just found that about you that I could tell by talking to you. And I was like, yeah. And I think I've shared that story with you before, but it's like, that's something common between two of us, which I think is pretty cool. As well. So I'm just saying, I'm proud of you. I love you. And
wait, I have one more story to tell you.
Oh, you have one more story. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I know you don't have much time. So this one was because my dream was always to be in Cirque, right? Like when I first started circus, I was like, I'm in Cirque du Soleil. Like, this is what I want to do. It was like the big show, right? The big one. And when I got in, you know, I was just so excited. And so that was probably one of my most intimidating and show was my very first one. One, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And 2, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm here. I did it. I made it. Especially someone that I just went to circus school. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not an Olympic gymnast. I'm not like a high medal circus performer, you know, like I happen to
trained on your own
in the right place. But one of my first bungees, so I did bungee from a stair, which I love. One of my first bungee performances, super nervous. And we bounced, do this like whole like slow part, and then we do our swings. And we have 3 swings. And you're supposed to come back, catch the bar. It was going to be amazing. And I was so excited because it was like my first show. I missed every single catch. And one, I was like super embarrassed. And like and in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired. Like I made it. I'm here. Like I finally did it. And I totally screwed up. I missed every single catch. And there was one where it took me forever to get back to the bar, and I was bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. And
I remember you telling me about this, actually.
Everybody's sitting on their trapeze, like looking at me, bouncing. I finally catch, and someone in the audience goes,
the whole show is waiting for you. The whole show is waiting for you.
Oh, it's waiting for me. And I missed every single one. Needless to say, I came down crying in tears. I felt so like defeated.
Yeah. And this was show 1?
Yeah. And my bungee team, though, they were incredible. They were like, you did amazing. Like, you're going to be fine. It's going to get easier. Like, don't worry.
Well, this isn't get any worse.
Right, exactly. And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, like I finally made it, and I totally screwed up. But thank God they didn't hold that against me, because I was still there for another like 7 years. So.
Yeah, right.
And it got way easier. Then I understood it, and it worked out, and I was good. But
right, but then sometimes, like, if they change the bungee, like the tension, if you have too much, I mean, there's a lot of variables that go on with that.
Yeah, especially being an on-call.
By a pound or 2 pounds, I mean, that can all change.
Yeah. So, and being on call, I was probably nervous a lot going in, because I didn't always get to practice or have like a training beforehand. Right. But it was still something, and that's still like a highlight, because I wanted to be in circ for so long. Yeah. And luckily they didn't like hold that against me. So.
They didn't fire you, and they're what go.
Yeah, like they're like, okay, it was your first time. We'll give you another time, and then I was good. So I think it was a lot of nerves too.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the goal is, and a lot of the shows that when you do, you kind of go, well, as long as you prepare as much as possible and you're as ready as you ever will be, you just have to do the shows. It's no point in rehearsing them. So I just got to get this from people. So. Yeah.
So, story, the main, I guess, takeaway from my stories is practice. Check your hair and costumes before you do anything. Don't exfoliate your legs right before you go on stage, or it wasn't even before I went on stage, hours before.
Don't get kicked in the head.
Don't get kicked in the head. And, don't give up, really, because, like, as things are going to happen, we can't always have control over what happens on stage, even when we are totally prepared. And
I think that's a lesson in life too. I mean, right now is a perfect example, is that right now there is a lot of unknown with this quarantine business, and people are going to go, well, everything's going not as planned, and being able to adapt and adjust and not giving up is super important right now, especially for everyone. And it's so easy to, oh, well, it's different because I have this or I have that. And everybody has their own things going on and their own responsibilities and pressures that they have. But not giving up is the name of the game. It's that consistency. I mean, something that I live by, that I think truly I feel in my heart, my soul, is that I live every day knowing that the greatest thing that I'm going to accomplish in life, I haven't even done yet. And that's so exciting. And to think that that's the way I live every day, or you should live every day, I just think that it's a beautiful thing. And I don't know any other way to continue on through life. It's like, hey, we're all going to have this chapter, and the whole world, as opposed to what's unique about this chapter in all of our lives, as opposed to being unique in our own ways. Like I have my Wynn chapter, you have your Reve chapter, and here, this is a chapter that the entire world's going through together. And we can all say, hey, it's actually bringing everyone together, because everyone has empathy, because they all understand what you're going through, and it's a really difficult time. I mean, it's amazing how those things can shape you and make you grow. And I think that is a big thing right now. And hopefully maybe hearing some of your stories about you getting kicked in the face will make them laugh.
Make them laugh and keep on moving forward.
All right. Well, I'll let you go. I have to run, but I love you. Thanks for being on my podcast.
You're welcome.
I love you.
Love you. Bye.